When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject, Penne pasta. User, Homeboy123. Posted, February 27th, 1996.
I wanted out. I wanted to get as far away from this shit stain of a town as I possibly could, and honestly, I was just about willing to do anything to do that. At least, that's what I thought. After 2 years of shit grades at the local community college, I said enough's enough, packed a duffel bag, and took a Greyhound south. I didn't have a plan, didn't have a real destination, just needed to not be where I'd been. The bus dropped me in one of those generic-ass mid-sized cities. You know the type. 2 Walmarts, an old mall hanging on by a thread, liquor stores with bars on the windows, no charm and no real character. Just asphalt, low skies, and broken dreams. I crashed on the couch of this dude I met through a message board for, I shit you not, regional ska bands. I stayed there till his girlfriend got weird about it. After that, I picked up a job waiting tables at Carano's, this half-dead Italian joint wedged in a busted strip mall between a liquor store and a check-cashing place. It wasn't the worst. Tips were passable. The place smelled like grease and garlic and mop water. And nobody cared if you pocketed a breadstick or two. My co-workers were burnt out, pushing 50, smoking Winstons out back, and talking about ex-wives and child support. I was easily the youngest guy there by at least a decade. But that customer, every Thursday, clockwork, 4:45 p.m. sharp, he'd walk in like he was stepping into a ritual. Same routine, same seat, table 8, far back corner, booth next to the frosted window that looked out onto a cinder block wall tagged with graffiti from the 80s. He had the same order, too. Penne arrabbiata. No cheese, 1 glass of house red. Ate like a man on borrowed time. Slow and measured, like chewing each bite was part of a contract he'd signed with the universe. Never spoke unless necessary. Never asked for anything different. He wore a gray overcoat year-round, had these heavy boots like he'd just stepped out of a war zone. Hair was silver, slicked back, but his skin didn't match the age of it. He looked preserved, like something you'd find in a museum. Too smooth and too clean. The only thing messy about him was his hands. They always looked a little battered, calloused, bandaged sometimes, old blood still in the cuticles. The first time I served him, he locked eyes with me and said, "You'll remember this." That's all. No please. No thank you, just that. Gave me chills I couldn't explain, but After that, he was just quiet. A ghost with a credit card. Months passed, and he kept showing up. It started getting under my skin how precise he was, how he never missed. Even when we had that blackout last February and the kitchen was closed, he came in, sat down, and waited until the lights flicked back on. I asked Angie, the hostess, what his deal was. She just rolled her eyes and said, "He's been coming here longer than any of us. I think he used to know Tony, the original owner. Some kind of vet or a priest or something." Priest? She shrugged. He wears a ring. Kind of looks like one of those Vatican types. I don't know. That did not help. In fact, it just made it weirder. And then came that Thursday. It was already off from the start. I woke up with a migraine. The fryer was broken. Some asshole puked in the men's room before lunch even hit. Angie called in sick, and at 4:43 p.m., as I was wiping down table 6, I felt this pressure, like the air itself was holding its breath. 4:45. He came in. Same coat, same boots. But this time, he looked tense. Not scared, not angry. Just primed, like a spring loaded tight. His eyes scanned the room quick. Then he sat back straight, hands on his knees, and didn't speak. I brought the penne, set it down, but he didn't touch it. He didn't even look at it, and that's when I felt it. This vibration low in my teeth, like a subwoofer humming somewhere beneath the floor. The glass behind the bar started rattling ever so slightly. I looked around, no one else seemed to notice, and then the window exploded. Not cracked, not spiderwebbed, fucking exploded. A blur of black muscle and bone and stink came screaming through the glass. Shoulders hitting boots, claws out, mouths open. It wasn't human. Tall, gaunt, arms too long, skin tight, like it had been shrink-wrapped, all burned and bubbling. Its face was, God, I don't even know. It was fused, like it had been melted in a kiln. Empty holes were there where eyes should have been. It made this sound. Not a roar, not a scream, more like metal bending underwater. Everyone screamed. Chairs flipped. Someone yelled Jesus' name like it was gonna help. And the Thursday man, he stood, calm, controlled, pulled something from under his coat that looked like a blade, not a knife. This thing curved, black, etched with symbols that glowed faint blue. He ran at the thing, did not hesitate. The creature lunged and slashed. The man ducked, slid under it, came up behind and slashed across its back. The blade sizzled on contact, not cut, burned like acid. The thing screeched, whipped around, grabbed him by the throat, slammed him against a pillar, and the drywall cracked. He gasped, twisted, stabbed again right under the arm, and the demon staggered. Blood sprayed the wall, but it wasn't red. It was this viscous black tar that steamed on contact. People were running. I didn't. I couldn't. I stood there, stuck, watching. He was not human either. Not fully, at least. No man moves like that. The way he read the creature, anticipated it like he'd fought it before. Maybe not it, but its kind. They tore through the dining room, sliced tables in half, shattered plates. At one point, the man got thrown onto the bar, cracked a rib or something. I heard it snap, but he kept going. Blood on his lips, eyes wide, and that blade flashing blue every time it hit. Finally, he got behind it, grabbed it by the jaw, spoke in a language I couldn't comprehend, something that made the hairs on my neck stand up, and then he rammed the blade through the base of its skull. The creature convulsed, twitched, let out one last gurgling howl, and dropped. Steam rose from the body. It twitched once more, then stilled. Silence. Broken chairs, broken glass, blood, red and black, splattered like a Jackson Pollock across the walls. I was shaking. I didn't even realize I'd pissed myself until I looked down and saw the dark stain spreading on my apron. He stood over the body, breathing heavy, and then turned to me. "You don't belong here," he said, voice flat. "Not yet." I did not ask what he meant. I ran out the front, past the booths, through the parking lot, kept running until my lungs gave out and I collapsed in a ditch by a gas station. I didn't go back for my paycheck, didn't go back for my duffel. I bought a one-way ticket home with my last $40 and left everything behind. Been back in my hometown ever since, working odd jobs, living quiet. People ask me why I came back. I say the city wasn't for me.
Subject, Bone Hollow. User, 4EVR changed. Posted, October 17th, 1999.
I never should have gone out there alone. Not that I had much choice. Nobody else gave a damn anymore. 2 weeks had passed since Tommy and his brother Clay took their rifles out to Bone Holler, and only one of them came back. Clay barely spoke a word. Said he fell asleep by the fire and woke up to nothing but embers and an empty tent. I've known Tommy Harper since 5th grade. We played t-ball together, got drunk behind the Texaco at 16, both kissed Sheila Hargrove in the same summer. That man was like a brother to me, and even if Clay wasn't talking, I figured I owed it to Tommy to at least go look. I packed up my old Bronco with gear after work on Friday. Just a flashlight, some water, jerky, extra batteries, and Dad's old 22. I didn't expect trouble, but I knew that land. Thick woods, no cell service. You step off the old fire road too far, you're liable to find yourself turned around and talking to trees. I left a note for my girlfriend and told her I'd be back Sunday, but Sunday never came. The drive took 2 hours past Green Falls, the last little town before the pines started swallowing the sun. Bone Holler isn't on any map I've ever seen. Locals just call it that because of the old limestone formations and the hollowed-out creek beds filled with deer skulls, turkey bones, and worse, if you listen to the drunks at Sullivan's Bar at least. I parked off the trailhead and started hiking with the late lights slanting in gold between the trunks. Autumn had taken the green from the trees, and every step crunched like glass underfoot. There were no signs of Clay's camp, no tent, no scorched fire ring, Nothing. Just the sound of wind slipping through trees like it was trying not to be noticed. I hiked deeper toward where I remembered the creek split, the spot we used to call Devil's Fork. Tommy and I camped there once when we were 19, got scared half to death by what turned out to be a raccoon banging around our cooler. But I remember he said something that night that stuck with me. "You ever feel like these woods are older than time?" he asked. "Like older than God?" I thought he was high at the time, but now I'm not so sure. I set up camp near the creek bed that night. No fire, just a Coleman lantern and a damp chill settling in my bones. I left the tent flap open and lay awake listening. There's something different about dark in the woods. It presses, not like city dark where the glow of traffic or neon signs keeps you tethered. This was an ancient dark, a living dark. I could hear things moving out there, branches creaking, leaves shuffling. Normal stuff, maybe, but then I heard whispers. Not words, not voices I could make out, just soft hissing like someone was exhaling secrets into the dirt. I sat up, clicked the lantern back on, and it all stopped. Just silence, heavy and waiting. I told myself I was just spooked. Probably too many late nights watching unsolved mysteries, but the hairs on my arms wouldn't go back down. The next day, I searched hard. I hiked farther than I should have, crossed the ridge, checked the gully, climbed down into the old quarry where we used to chuck beer bottles. I didn't find Tommy, but I did find something else. A jacket, canvas, torn at the shoulder. I recognized it. Tommy's lucky hunting jacket. Same patch on the back that said Mossy Creek Sporting Goods. It was wet, not damp from dew though, soaking, like it had just come out of the river, but there was no river nearby. Just the dry creek beds and stagnant pools where frogs left slime trails. I wrung it out and folded it up, figuring I'd bring it to the sheriff if I made it back. That night, things got worse. I woke up freezing. The lantern was dead. My watch said 3:11 a.m., but there was light outside. Not firelight, not moonlight. Green. A sickly green glow coming from the woods just past the creek. I unzipped the tent and stepped out barefoot into frost. The cold hit my skin like needles, but I couldn't stop moving toward the light. It pulsed like it was breathing, and beneath it I heard something. Not music, but a rhythm. Low, insect-like, like thousands of legs twitching in time. I pushed through bush, thorns slicing my jeans, and then the trees opened, and I saw it. Not a creature, not a machine, just a shape. Wrong angles, too tall, too narrow, like a tower made of wet bone and moss, humming with electricity. I saw Tommy standing in front of it, naked as the day he was born, arms slack, eyes open, but not blinking, like he was listening. I called his name and he didn't turn, didn't flinch, just stared up at that thing with a half smile like he was seeing God himself. And then everything went white. I woke up on my back with a mouth full of dirt and no memory of how I got there. My pack was gone, my boots were gone, the jacket was gone, my legs were covered in cuts, and my throat was raw like I'd been screaming for hours. I staggered back to where my camp had been. The tent was gone. Lantern was gone. It was like I'd never even been there. I thought maybe a day had passed, maybe 2. It had been 8. They found me stumbling barefoot down Route 7, covered in scratches and dried blood. I told the deputy what happened every word. He just shook his head and said I was lucky to be alive, said Tommy was probably long dead, said folks get lost out there and turn feral. Said Clay had told them the same damn story when he came back. Green light, strange shapes, time slipping like a busted watch. They laughed at him, too. I don't know what I saw. I don't know what it wanted. All I know is I'm not the same. I dream in pulses now, heartbeat rhythms that echo in green. Sometimes I wake up with pine needles in my bed. Sometimes I find little piles of stones stacked on my windowsill. And sometimes I see Tommy, not in dreams, in crowds, at gas stations, across the parking lot of the hardware store, just standing, watching, and not blinking.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.